All right, everybody, welcome back to Sunscreen Day 3, the continuation. Another interview coming up, a lot more to come up, and a lot more weekend. But until then, let's get into this interview here. We're your hosts. I'm Tony Serrano.
I'm Gavin Butts.
I'm Patrick Wall.
And to our special guest.
I'm Anthony Valdés.
Well, welcome, sir.
Thank you.
I know me and Gavin got to meet you last night.
Yeah.
It was a good time.
The
Fun time,
cool
man.
members of the,
I'm sorry, I went to my nice, comfortable apartment after we did this yesterday.
Hey, look, I'm a homebody too, so I get that. I feel that. I feel that. I understand that. I feel that.
So you're here at Sunscreen. You got a film here, correct?
Yes, filming at it's at the world premiere of my short film, my second short film, super excited, called Last Day in Florida. It's about two queer people who live in New York, but are from Florida. I call expats, you know, and they moved to New York, and they kind of meet each other, but they used to date in high school, but as each other's beards. So essentially that means that they were both gay, but they couldn't really be gay, and so they kind of dated each other to kind of like hide. And so I wanted to kind of make a short film about that. And I'm originally from Pinellas County, right here. So this is actually a really cool full circle moment for me because I have not been back home in 9 years.
Nice.
So I'm really
Welcome
excited.
back.
Yeah, thank you. I'm so excited. It's like as soon as like I got off the plane and I like opened the window of my like rental car and I just felt that heat and everyone was like, oh, it's terrible, but I was like, oh, it's home. I'm home.
Yeah.
I'm home. I'm like, there it is. Yeah.
I love this humidity feeling.
Yeah, honestly, that's kind of how I felt, and so I'm really excited to like make a movie in New York about Floridians, and then come back to like premiere it here at the Sunscreen Film Festival, and I'm super excited. So,
Nice. What time is it premiere?
it's at 3:45.
3:45?
Yeah,
All right.
3:45. Heartstrings block. So, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Very cool, man. And so your experience with Sunscreen so far, how's it been?
It's been amazing. I think the way that it's been programmed. So I live in New York, and I actually program a short film screening series myself. And the way that it's been programmed, all the blocks are just absolutely really well done. They tell a story. It's really cool. I did some of the short docs, and I shed some tears. It was like really well done, and I was just like, yeah, it's been really enthralling, and it's such a great film festival. And I'm gonna go back home to New York and be like, you don't sleep on your Sunscreen. Come back to my home. Because it's a really cool festival, and everyone involved has been really amazing. And I know some of the people who are involved in it. I've known them for like 15 years, so it's really cool. I'm excited.
So apologies. Are you showing your film at any other festivals right now, or is this the first?
This is the first.
stop?
This is
Okay.
the first stop. So which is really really exciting. So I was really happy to like get into it because I was
Right.
like, oh my god, this is exactly what I wanted. But hopefully it'll be some more film festivals. I'm still waiting back. You know, it's a waiting game when you submit. You know, you kind of you pay the fee, and then you're like, okay. I gotta wait to hear back. So right now I'm just waiting to hear back. So hopefully we'll have some in Florida, so in New York, and then maybe in California as well. So I've submitted a couple in California. So we'll see. But I'm excited to be back home. It's a really nice homecoming. So I'm stoked. It's been really fun. So.
Now, you said you're coming back home. Were you originally from Florida?
So
or did you kind of
I moved
migrate?
here when I was a kid. When I was a little baby, little 2-year-old baby. My parents lived here, and I've lived all over Pinellas County. So I've lived in St. Pete, Clearwater. So actually, I've taken this time to like go back to like my old like home, and I went to high school in Dunedin. I went to Dunedin High School.
Oh, me too.
Yeah. Oh, you did? Yeah.
Graduated
there you
in
go.
03.
Yeah, I went there, and it was nice to go back and see the Pinellas Trail where I live right by, and just like go around and see some friends. None of my family lives here anymore, but you know, all my friends, they're my chosen family, you know, and that's who really took care of me when I came out of the closet in 2009. It was really difficult, but I had such an amazing support system with my family and not with my family, but with my friends and my school. And Dunedin High School really took care of me.
Oh, yeah.
Which when I tell people in New York, they're like, oh my God, my friends and my high school in Florida were like so supportive. They were like, really? And I'm like, yes, I know you hear all the news, but I get it. But like this
Dunedin's a little bit different than the
yeah,
rest.
I totally get that. And so to me, it's like this county, Pinellas County specifically, and the people here have always had a special place in my heart. So it's really cool to bring a movie here and come back. So yeah, so hopefully hopefully do some more projects down here. I really want to come back and work on some stuff and maybe film some stuff. So yeah, I'm stoked.
And real quick, like to their surprise, like people don't really understand how many states are actually in Florida.
You've
got like, you know, the Cuban sector,
Yep.
you have lower LA over the Panhandle,
Exactly.
you've got extension of Georgia, but basically the South stops at Tallahassee.
There's so
we're so
much,
far south, we're north now.
Yeah, exactly.
There's so many cool things. I miss it every day. You know, I miss like just being here, and like there's a sense of community, and just being at this festival. There's like such a sense of community, and like it just reminds me of something I experienced like 15 years ago. So yeah, it's just it's funny. Like I feel like a lot of New Yorkers like sleep on Pinellas County. I'm like, don't. It's really cool, and it's a great place, and it's beautiful, and it's not cold all the time, and not gross, and like
Well, it's funny you say that too, because like after the pandemic, or during the pandemic and post, everybody from New York, California, Chicago, and I will say Ohio, but Ohio has been transferring down here for a while, but they're all down here now. So Pinellas County is basically California, New York, and Chicago. Now,
Yeah.
is what it's turning into.
It really is. It's so funny because when I moved to New York in 2013, and I moved because I was bored. I was a 21-year-old kid, and I was like, I'm bored. I don't want to be here anymore. I'm going to leave. And then in the last, 12 years, it has completely changed. And I'm like, oh, like, did I miss something?
I moved down in 2012. So
There you go. Yeah. So like, I moved away, you moved here. Yeah. And I was like, oh, now. I'm like,
and I moved from a small town in Virginia where I was born.
Yeah. So like, yeah, I moved away because I was bored, and I'm like, oh, man, now do I got to come back? Like, like it's not boring anymore, and it's really cool. So yeah.
So when did you get your start in, or how did you get your start in the film industry?
Yeah.
Was it like just a click for you, or did you start writing?
No, it really was. I was in a band. I'm a musician initially, and I was making music. I actually been in a band here. I used to play in Ybor City. I used to play at Dunedin Brewery. And so I was in a band. I was making music, and then I moved to New York. I wanted to be a musician. It didn't really work out. I actually tried doing podcasting, and then I started. And then my friend got me on a gig, a PA gig, a few years ago, and I was like, and I came home, and my husband was like, after 12, 13 hours, he's like, wow, you look really happy. And I'm like, he's like, I can't believe that 13, 14 hours later, you're like ecstatic. And I'm like, this is the coolest thing in the world. I'm like, I know, I want to do this all the time. And he's like, really? He's like, are you like, really? And I'm like, yes. And so 2023, I made the jump, was like, I'm just going to do this full time. And then I started working in that and kind of been on and off, obviously like it's the indie lifestyle, as you do your main gig, but you try to make as many movies as you can. So yeah, it was honestly 2023 is when I really started, and then just made 2 films. This is actually my second short film. This is my first narrative. My first film is called The Opener. It's about 3 aperitif brands. My specialty is wine and spirits, the industry, and I love being in that industry, and it's hospitality, it's love, it's really amazing. So that's like my specialty, but I wanted to make a narrative, and so that's kind of what I am. But yeah, that's how I started, it just clicked. As soon as I started doing it and producing and directing and making movies and looking at spreadsheets about budgets, and I was like, and looking at call sheets, I was like, this is for me. And it was really cool because like I'm a little bit older than a lot of people starting in the industry, and I didn't go to film school, but I'm glad that I did what I did, like working in retail, working in offices, because now it's like I'm on set and I'm like excited, and they're like, this is like, most people my age are like, I've been doing this for 10 years, I'm tired, and I'm like, I'm ready to go, man. Let's do this. 12-hour days, that's fine, so yeah.
So you said your film's in the heartstrings short block. How
Yeah.
long is your film?
It is 9 minutes and 57 seconds.
Okay.
I edited the movie myself and colored it, and I wanted to make sure it was under 10 minutes. My first film was 20 minutes, which is far too long for a lot of festivals. So any short filmmakers try to make your movie under 12 minutes. That's the kind of
that's what we've heard.
Yeah, that's the golden ratio. It's just easier for programmers to to program your film, to get your message across. And I love shorts. I think there's I think people forget that shorts are really cool. They're expensive to make, they're hard to make, and they're short and no one watches them, but they're so amazing. You get to tell this really quick story in a small amount of time. And I just think there's an ability and a talent that even I struggle with myself, like writing and doing that. And I think people who do it better than I do, I'm like, man, that's incredible. Like, I've seen movies and I'm like, oh man, I wish I did that. But I loved seeing those films because I'm like, this is incredible. Like you're doing something, like you're making a story in this really small amount of time, and you're making an impact. And I think that's so incredible. So don't sleep on those short films. Go watch those short films. They're on YouTube. They're online. Go to film festivals. They're really fun because you get to, especially with our, culture today where we like to scroll through things really fast. It's a great way because you just watch a bunch of movies in one sitting. So it's really nice.
Now the question I have too, and this is something I always ask a couple people, especially when it comes to like on the short film end. because I like shorts too. So it's 9.5 minutes in, about 9.5.
Yeah,
10
but
minutes?
yeah.
That did not take you 9.5 minutes though to make. How long? Unless you're all one take wonders. And even then, how long did this thing take to actually get together?
So it took about 2.5 days to film. Well, I mean, yeah, it was a lot. Some B-roll day, which is about half the day, but it's kind of like, honestly, it was just me and my DOP, my associate producer Talia Romano, and we were just like fucking around and just like, sorry, I'm so sorry.
We don't get
You want your damn mouth around us.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we were just like, going around Brooklyn and just like filming stuff and then just like doing, and I was just like, honestly, I had a little bit of like a shot list, but I was like, let's just film whatever and then just see what it goes in the edit. And then I did have like a shot list for specific when I had the actors because I wanted to respect their time and get them going, going in and going out. But yeah, it didn't take. It was like 3 days of production, and then we ended up. And then editing took me a lot shorter because I edited the film. I was just so excited to get the footage, and I just like I remember like plotting it out and like having a calendar for myself. I was like, it's gonna take me like 2.5 months to edit this thing. It took me about a month, like less than a month, and that was because I did a ton of cuts. Thank you to my husband who watched so many cuts. I'd be like, come here, look at it. What do you think of this? Like, and then a lot of continuity. I was like, okay, does this make sense? And he's like, I'm like, did you notice that thing? She raised her hand here, and then he raises, and he was like, I didn't notice, and I'm like, I did. And it was just a lot of little things.
Did you see?
Exactly. Like, did you notice? Like, it was so many. I would go back, and I'm like, no, you must have seen that. He's like, I didn't see that at all. I don't know what you're talking about. And I'm like, okay, fine. I guess that's fine. And it was just, but yeah, it was just so exciting. That's also when I fell in love with editing. I've only started editing this year, and it was just so much fun to like put these things together. And I really found the joy of editing and like the joy of like, for me, filmmaking is a little manipulative, and I love that because you can manipulate your audience to feel something, and that's like the coolest thing as an artist is you get to like tell people. And that was when I remember when I was editing, I was like, that's when it clicked because I was like, oh, I get to tell someone what to look at. Like, I get to control what you're looking at, and that's really exhilarating as an artist. And I've been an artist for a really long time, writing music, now doing movies. It's like you get to like kind of control that experience, and that's really satisfying because artists are all narcissistic in a way, and it's really cool because you just get to like tell what you want to say, what you want to be told, and how you want to say it. And people will take and I love that people take their own reactions away and they take their own vibes. And that's the cool thing about art, about making art, is that you get to watch something that someone made. I did this on purpose. Everything's on purpose. And then someone gets to take away something that they thought of. And I just think that's the coolest and the most social thing. And I love cocktails. I love drinking because that's a big part of me. But I think this, like, that to me is like making movies are like cocktails. It's like someone makes this thing, all these little ingredients, all this thing, and then someone has this different experience. And I just think that's so cool. And that's the joy of movies and the joy of art.
It kind of helps you get out of that like tunnel vision that you have.
Yeah.
Like, this was my view of it, but then you hear someone else's reaction.
And
it just completely
thing.
changed. Like it even changes your reaction. It's like, yeah, I meant like this, but wow, yeah, I meant that too.
Yeah. I've had those experiences where I'm just like, I've shown some people the film, and I've had people go like, this is so cool. Like, there was this one part that they did this, and I was like, really? Like, and it was just, it's really fun, and it's really cool to work with people. I love working with film because it's like, to me, it's like in a band. Like, it reminds me of being in a band, and it's so fun because you get to work with all these people, and they bring these little, it's like instruments. They're bringing all these little things into it, and you're just like. And I loved working with actors. I've done a lot of documentaries, and I love working with documentaries, but acting is really cool because you get to these artists who like, sort of like, you write this thing on the page, and then they're like, and then you have this in your head, and you're like, oh, this is exactly how I want it to be. And that was one thing as a director I really learned was like, I have it in my head, this is exactly how I want it to be, but then an actor has the ability to kind of like tweak that and do it on their own, and I just thought that was so cool, and that was really fun. And yeah, like there was a newfound respect for acting that I learned, and I was like, there's such an art form in every single aspect, the technical, everything, and I think that it's the coolest thing. It's making movies is like, it was nice when I finally did in 2023. I was like, it clicked. I was like, this is what I was meant to do. And everyone in my family was like, yeah, of course, you've been loving movies since you were a kid. Like, you've been watching movies, you always wanted to do this, and so it's nice to actually finally do it. So
Well, and it's funny you say that too. It's like when you look back and you say, you know, you get in your mind like this is how I want it to be, and you're working with the actor, and then maybe the actor does something a little different or makes it their own in a completely different way that maybe you didn't expect, but then you almost see it and you're like, actually that's what I want to do. It's just, you sometimes, like you said, you know, everybody's their own, you know, most critical person.
Yeah.
Like you're saying, like, did you see that? Did you see that? But you know, when you start writing, you know, I've written some stuff in the past myself, and you start writing, and you get in this thing, and you almost like pigeonhole yourself, like, no, this is how it has to be because of the way the scene's said, because of the way the other character is. But like I said, then the actor brings something out, and you're like, oh wow,
it was
that
really
actually intriguing.
That was the cool thing, because I wrote the script for specific people in mind that I wanted to be in the film. They weren't able to do it, but it was even cooler because I got to meet people who were just like making it, and the casting process was wild because I was seeing so many different like people like take this role that I had written and it was in my head for this one person and take it and do it the way they thought it was best, and I was like, that's so cool, like, you know. And I was also just impressed with the caliber of actors who were off, like, who took a page, like I had, you know, had my sides, and they would take the side and they'd memorize it. That was the weirdest thing. I've never seen people like off book, and I was like, how did you do it? Like, I couldn't do that. That's why I could never be an actor. So, because I was like, I can't remember anything. I can't memorize anything.
I would be the same. I'd be on set. What's my line?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It was such a cool experience, and working with the two, the whole film is just two people talking, and I was really nervous. It was like, it's a lot of talking, and that's all pretty much the whole movie. But John Valdés and Dre Ong, who are in my film, they took it and they loved it, and they made it their own and made it exactly what I wanted, and I couldn't be happier. And I was really excited, and putting it all together, it was just really fun. It was really beautiful.
And
That's awesome.
that's mine. These guys can tell you. I say that all the time. Like, two people, like in one environment, are some of my favorite. Like,
I don't know if you just heard that eye roll, but yes.
Dialectically heavy movies are my thing. Like, I just like, because if you can be intrigued by just listening to people talk, you know, whatever the situation is, you know, there's not like it's not an action movie. There's not bombs going off. You know, there's no wizardry. You know, there's no lightsabers. You know, but it's just two people having a conversation.
Easy.
Put some lightsabers in the next.
They can be holding the lightsabers while talking.
That's true. That's true.
But like when you get really involved in a movie, and it's like two people sitting in a room, like even if it's, say, a psychiatrist's office or something, you know, just doctor and patient, they're talking, and you're like sitting there doing this.
Yeah.
Or you get really involved in it, or you get emotionally involved in it because maybe it touches something that means something to you. Those are some of my favorites.
Yeah, and it's funny because I actually don't care for movies like that personally. Like, I actually watch a lot of bombs and like those are my
bombs too.
And I love that. But like when I wanted to do something a little bit quiet, something more realistic, and that was one of the things when I wrote this film. I was like, I don't want it to be pretentious because it can fall into like that pretentious like dialogue where you're just like lofty things, and I'm like,
where
I don't
you feel like you're trying to lead the audience too
and I've
much.
seen a lot of short films, you know, who just like, it's like, okay, I got it. Like, you know, your whole value on life, and I was very cautious with my film. Was I wanted to be the most realistic and like real conversation, and I think I achieved that because a lot of people were like, it just feels like I'm a fly on the wall, just like watching these two people talk, and that's what I wanted because I wanted to be like, I didn't want them to act like, I wanted them to just be like, this is who you are. And so that was really cool, and it was funny because like it kind of made me want to watch more movies like that where it's just quiet and you just like felt this like presence. You were just there with these people, and that's like the really cool thing of, like I've said about art, is like it's just a connection. It's so part of the connection piece, and there's so many connecting things, and everyone will take something out of it. And I just think that's the cool thing about, you know, being at festivals like this. You get to just connect with a director, a writer, an actor, a performer, whatever it is, even a gaffer, you know what I mean? Like, you're like, that lighting thing, you're like, that was, oh my God, like I felt that. And I think that's the coolest thing about movies that I love. Yeah.
Now, just out of curiosity, let's say, okay, so for this film, you know, I know you said you had done one before that was longer and you wanted, you know, this perfect for a short.
Yeah.
Is there any thought process of like, would this be almost like could this be a proof of concept to be a larger movie, like a full-length feature where you could expand the story? Is that anything that's maybe on the radar for you, or are you just kind of happy with this being what it is, the time frame that it is, and this is the story you want to tell?
Maybe. I actually have thought about that. Like, do I want to like, because it's about two people who talk about high school. And like, do I want, like, I was actually talking to someone earlier. I was like, should I come back to Florida and film like this, the prequel? Is that what I need to do? But like, I'm not sure. I think that I have a lot of stories to tell, and I'm like, maybe, take little pieces of it. But I'm not sure. I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. I do love having a short story. I like just having it one cohesive story, and you're just like, that's it. You let it sit. And you keep doing other things. But something similar to this. I think that something about living in Florida, being other, being someone you're not what you think is normal. I think that's something I want to keep telling, and I love audacious stories. I love stories that are just sort of weird, and people just being really stupid and weird and make stupid decisions that are really cool decisions. I think that for me is like, because I've made a lot of really stupid decisions, like moving to New York with 2 suitcases and 2 guitars. That's literally what I moved there. And I like, had nowhere to live. I slept on a couch. And I like, to me, it's like when I hear people like that. That's what I love about the spirits industry as well, because like, it's a really hard place to work, and even the film industry, it's so hard to do this. And when you keep doing it, like, you're kind of insane and like you're kind of weird, and it's like, and those are the coolest people because they have these weird stories or they just have something to say. And yeah, so I don't know, maybe so. That has been something I would love to come. I'd love to film in Dunedin, film back in Pinellas County. It's such a beautiful place. It's like it fills me with joy being here and being back, and so I'm like, I want to do something. So maybe, I don't know, we'll see.
And this place has expanded so much in terms of the film industry.
I know. I feel like I was so mad. I came back and I was like, what is this place? Like, why did I leave? Like, I'm like, could I have been one of the people that helped this? But whatever. It's nice to be back. I get to like come in and right in the, I guess, the middle. I don't know, but yeah.
Now, we were also talking, because we met you last night.
Yeah.
We were all having dinner. It was a great time. And we were talking about, like, directors, different type of movies. So, is there a specific director that you kind of get inspiration from? Or are you like, this is the type of thing I want to do, or want to do something similar? Or do you just kind of take bits and pieces of stuff that you've seen and kind of be like, okay, this is like how I want to make film?
That last part, yes, there's a lot of little bits and pieces of what I love to do. I love watching movies. I love watching new things and weird things. This film specifically was inspired by Celine Song's Past Lives, the film, and then Wong Kar-wai's Happy Together. So I was really inspired by a lot of Asian cinema, just the ability to be like quiet and just like have these talks, and I think that's really well explored in that culture. But like my favorite director is Christopher Nolan, of course, and it's like he's and he's a lot of all his films I've just been so inspired by. And honestly, Oppenheimer is a great because I remember watching Oppenheimer and I came out of it and I went, I didn't know you could do that. I didn't know you could make something so boring like science and physics and just drawing on a chalkboard, or like I don't know, like Senate confirmation stuff, could be so intense and so cool. And like, it's just people talking, but like, it was so intense. And I walked away from that really inspired, going, maybe I can make something that has the heart of an action film, that has the heart of like intensity, but it's something that you wouldn't expect. And I think I want to, that's the next like narrative. I do a narrative there. I have a couple of documentaries I'm working on right now, but that's, I think, the big thing is another narrative would just be that intensity, that action, but like not what you're expecting. Like not what you, like not a full on like lightsabers and guns, but like just as intense, because life can be intense.
John Wick meets wheat farming.
Yeah. One of the ideas I had was like talking about the bartending experience. Like that's an intense, like I bar backed, and that's an intense experience. And like, and it's like, you're just like on, and it's like what, and I kind of want to explore that. But I've been wanting to like take an action film approach to something like that, and I think Christopher Nolan does a really good job at that, where it's like this action film, but it's like something not actiony that you wouldn't expect, and it's like it's intense, and I love that. And I think that I think he opened the door for that, like taking something and going, it is intense, it is that intense for that person, so how do I make you feel intense, how do I make you feel this? Like we go back to the whole manipulation part. It's like, how do I make you feel this intensity, and taking all these pieces, lighting, music, cinematography, and putting it all together and making you feel this way that they felt. And I think that's so cool, and I think that That's what I really like to explore, is take my love for action movies, take my love for that, and go, how do I take that and put it to something that you wouldn't expect?
Okay.
So that's something I want to do.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I like it.
In a world where your life is ruled by a comb.
Yeah, exactly. And
Wait,
you,
what?
Yeah, and you're like, but he's just doing that. Like, and it's like, but for people, little things are just intense. I mean, I live in New York City. Like, just going on the subway, it's just intense. Like, like that alone is like, you're like, oh my god. Like, it's like,
Am I gonna die?
yeah, you put on the right song, and you're like, oh my god. Like, running to catch the train, and like, shit, like it's gone. Like now, the train is not running. I got to go to a bus, and it's like this whole, all these little things. Like, it doesn't sound intense. It's like mundane, but the way you shoot it and the way you put it all together, like I said, it's the way you manipulate it, and that's what's really cool. And then you make someone feel that, like, oh god, it must be so hard to be a New Yorker. You know what I mean? That's what's cool about it. So yeah.
That's almost like if you make like a movie in like just a 3-level up elevator movie, like maybe short, like 2 minutes long. Of the uncomfortableness of when you're in an elevator with all these strangers, and you don't want to. Something seems weird with the next person, but you don't want to look over.
You don't want to know.
And that 20-second elevator ride feels like an eternity, and all the things that go in through your head.
Or you smell something funny, you're trying to figure out who the just did
Or
that.
you don't want to figure it out. You're like,
Yeah.
I really don't want to know. Like, New York is full of all those smells. So, I think that's the cool thing, is I feel like, I love the mundane, the weird, just the normal. Like, it's like there is so much going on in just the normal and just nothingness. Like, it's hard to live out here in these days, man. Everyone, no matter where you are, it's hard to live right now, and it's hard to be just a person, and just trying to get up in the morning is really, for a lot of people, it's harder. Some people, it's easier. But I think there's something to be said about everyone's journey, and if I can tell that little journey story, that's what's cool.
That's awesome, man. Well, I think this has been fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
But no, thank you very much for joining us.
Of course,
we
thank
really
you.
Enjoyed meeting you last night. We'll meet up again today, later on
Yes.
today. But for you guys out there, just keep up with us. Continuation of Sunscreen Day number 3. A lot more interviews to go, a lot more weekend to go. But until then, for Movie Talks and Chill, we are your hosts. I am Tony Serrato.
I am Gavin Butts.
I'm Patrick Wall.
And I'm Anthony Valdés.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, guys, take care. All right, everybody, welcome back to Movie Talks and Chill. Sunscreen Continuation Day number 3. Like I said, a lot of more interviews to go, a lot more weekend to go. We're going to kick it off with our next one, though. But first, we are your hosts. I'm Tony Serrato.
I'm Gavin Butts.
I'm Patrick Wall.
And to our special guest, if you wouldn't mind introducing.
Hi, Andy Rice, director-producer of Banded, How a Bird's Eye View Made a Community, and here with the subject of the film.
I'm David Russell.
Oh, nice to meet you guys. So, your film is premiering here, I'm assuming?
It premiered in December in the Inheritance Film Festival in Ireland and England. It's played in a couple others, but first one that we've gotten to travel to, and it's really exciting. It looks so good up there on screen, actually. It's just been terrific.
Nice. And can you give us a basic rundown? What the film's about? How you got started with it?
So all across North and South America, there are ornithologists that research changes in bird populations. It's important data to collect to determine ecosystem health, and is at the ground level for every kind of research that we do on birds, just about. It is hard work to do, and part of what makes it difficult is that you have to catch the birds.
I would imagine that would be.
Running around with a net is really inefficient.
So the film follows Dr. David Russell, who's this very charismatic spokesperson for education on ornithology and getting people just really excited about being in the natural world, looking at birds up close, and as somebody who's done a lot of documentary work about people, really challenging to film birds. They are about 2 inches long, some species, like warblers, which is one of the main species that passes through the Midwest. They weigh as much as 2 Cheez-Its, is what Dave tells me, and I take his word on that. And they're in the top of an oak tree.
Oh, wow.
So you can't see them very well, even with binoculars. But if they go into a net in the morning when they're feeding, and you're checking the health of the birds and gender dynamics and all this kind of stuff, you can hold it in your hand about 6 inches away, and you should just see how excited all these volunteer birders are when they have the bird right there. It's just like the most wonderful thing in the world for filming for me. So. But Dave can speak maybe more to Avian Research Education Institute, which is what the film's about.
My wife and I started a nonprofit over 20 years ago. And basically, we started the nonprofit because I'm an ornithologist, study particularly long-distance bird migration. So those birds that are breeding in Canada and wintering in Central and South America. The problem over the last several decades is many of these species are down 80, 90%, and the question is, what do we do about it? And one of the most challenging parts about what do we do about it is people don't know they exist, so why do we care? And so my wife and I started AREI, Avian Research and Education Institute. We're both professors at Miami University, the real Miami, the one in Oxford, Ohio, not the upstairs. So we basically, I teach ornithology and entomology bugs. So we're looking at stopover dynamics of these birds as they stop in a rest stop and get their payday and a Mountain Dew and head to the next spot. So trying to figure out from a conservation perspective, can we generate the information that is important to make management decisions that will allow these birds to be successful into the next generation of birders? And so for 20 years we've been banding. We've probably banded over 30,000 birds at the banding station, and it's been a tremendous opportunity for my wife and I to introduce kids and community members and to birds, and actually, as Andy was saying, see them close, because
Right.
Unless it's a goose or a swan or something, people aren't. They're small,
Yeah.
and there's a tremendous diversity that's out there that people have no idea. So at the banding station, for instance, right now, spring migration has started in the Midwest. Birds are coming through us here in Florida.
Oh, yes.
I was out this morning, and they passed through us, and the number of and types of birds and how spectacular. Some of them are bright blue, bright orange, bright red, and yet people have no idea they exist. And so just to see the kind of the awe and the wonder as that kind of light bulb goes off, I mean, that's what drives it, because I want to see that happening into the next generation and after that.
I think it's great to, like, when you mentioned, like, bringing awareness, to kids, kids, the education system, I know some education systems in certain areas are a little better than others, some not as great, but you get a generalized version of this. So unless you get into a specialty, there's a lot of things in general, Mother Nature and natural animals, insects, all that good stuff that you just generally aren't aware of because you
Right.
don't know. There are those specifics. So it's very cool that you can bring to the forefront those specific areas and stuff that you're like, wow. And then you never know. Maybe next time you catch your eye, you're like, oh, that is what I heard about it.
That's
That
right.
is what I
That's
saw.
right. Yeah.
Because you always hear something, and like they say, like Murphy's Law or similar to that, like you start experiencing something once you're aware of it. And it's like then it's all of a sudden it's all around you. So I think that's really cool.
And one of the things that I find, as a whole, people don't like insects, bugs. God, it's a bug, let's get rid of them.
Mm-hmm.
And
At least the palmetto bugs, they can go away.
well, yeah, and people have it out for mosquitoes and a
Yeah.
few other things. But think about at least driving through the Midwest now. We can go all the way to Chicago and back, a 4-hour drive, not have to clean our windshield. The bugs are gone, and that's what these birds are eating. So part of the conservation message is we're actually using the birds, who are largely unknown, to bring awareness to moths and beetles and things that are even actually in worse shape. But it's really hard to get people excited when you say, oh, I had 6 species of moths at my porch light. Yeah, that's, or that big brown beetle that's on my screen is actually cool.
When you stick around for another week, the love bug season will start. There is no shortage of those little fuckers.
Well, on the way in, there was a beetle that had been stepped on. It's actually a super cool species. It's a scarab beetle that was down here. And I noticed I was the only one who stopped and picked it up and looked at it and thought, oh, this is a cool scarab. There's a lot of people outside, and none of them looked at it.
Let's see, it kinda
They
goes-
looked at it, but probably just avoided it.
Well, actually, that's why it was smashed. They
Yeah,
looked at it at least
Somebody
once.
stepped on it. Yeah.
Somebody was not a fan.
No.
No.
I mean, it goes to like all species of anything, really. Like me, I'm not a snake person. So for me, you start talking about that, I might shut down a little bit, but I do know that there's a lot of good purposes for them.
Absolutely. My wife is not a snake person either. When we got married, my daughter had a snake.
Oh,
You can imagine the excitement in our household.
oh yeah. Constantly checking.
God, I wish I could have seen that one actually.
I had a student last week who picked up a rat snake in lab, an ornithology lab, happened to find a snake, and she was taking a selfie with it, and it bit her on the nose.
Oh.
Wow.
I couldn't stop laughing. I have one of my grad students.
It's a compliment. You look tasty.
Yeah, well, yeah. I have a grad student who, when cardinals bite us, cardinals are a strong-billed bird. It's a state bird for Ohio and 6 other states around there. But when they bite you, it pinches. Sometimes
You're gonna feel it.
significantly. You're going to feel it, particularly if your hands are cold. And in her excitement in starting this process, she has ultimately gotten cardinal bites tattooed onto her finger. So I'm actually have made a suggestion that my ornithology student might get snake bite semicircular on either side of the nose. It's certainly something different and would allow maybe better awareness of snakes.
Yep.
Though maybe not.
I don't
in
know
a
that
happy
that's
fashion.
Yeah, my awareness of them. I
No
see
press
them,
is
I'm
bad
aware.
press, right? Like,
This is actually a stencil.
That's right.
Yeah, I can guarantee you, I know they have a great value to the ecosystem, but if I see one, I'm very aware of it, and I'm aware that I'm probably not going to be near it anytime soon, so I will
Yeah.
not have to be worried about
Yeah.
getting bitten, because I
That's-
ain't picking that thing up.
Snakes are cool.
Oh,
I got to tell you,
they're unique creatures.
They are very unique, and
They're unique.
Some of them more unique than others.
Yes,
but,
yes.
You see him on the golf course where it says "Beware of rattler snakes."
Yes, or water moccasins.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
And we got plenty of those here, too, so, you're here at Sunscreen, so how did you guys hear about how Sunscreen, what brought you here, like what intrigued you to come?
so I have a family in Tampa.
Okay.
And so I was looking around at Florida film festivals, also noting that there's a pretty extensive birding community in the state. So I applied to lots of stuff in Florida. And I was really excited to get into this one. St. Augustine had a shorts film festival. We played in there too. So when I heard that we got in, we're like, well, we got to go. So it's been a good couple of days down here. We're excited to have the film screening and excited to go to the party and all of that tonight. The one other thing that is maybe worth mentioning about the film and how, we're curious about how people make sense of these kinds of short films and what happens to them later. Like, can you turn this into a longer story? What's the effect of that kind of story? What's the relationship between the cinema that we make and policies on the ground that influence conservation? And it's true that people aren't as excited about palmetto bugs as like warblers migrating through a region. These things that start in Ecuador and El Salvador and go through Florida, they go through Ohio on their way to Canada. It's amazing. They connect all of us in that way, right? And people always have bird stories, weird stories oftentimes.
That's that one.
Yeah,
We were actually stopped with a couple of bird jokes on the way up.
yeah. Not a PG bird joke, but
My car
Dirty bird jokes.
My car has a lot of them, especially when it's clean.
yeah, a lot of bird jokes all over the windshield.
All over it.
But there's this example like eagle conservation in northern Ohio. Big deal to preserve the eagle and try to bring its populations back. But the effort to do that meant that you saved a whole ecosystem around there, benefited hundreds of other bird species and bug species and oak trees, which have 500 species of caterpillars in them. That's what birds eat when they're migrating. And all these. So if you don't have oak trees, you don't have anywhere to stop. They don't have any food. So there's a way that maybe we can like save the snakes and the palmetto bugs in through the back door if you've got something
And
that we
send
can
them
agree
back.
to kind
Yeah,
of care
so, I
about.
mean,
Just save them not in your house, right?
Yeah. Can they save them outside of the domicile?
I don't want to veer too far out, but I do. When you mentioned that there's conservation areas. Sorry, I'm a
You
little
got there.
tongue-tied. I'm talking a lot today.
Yeah.
I did a job for my regular work up in Westboro, Massachusetts, and we noticed there was massive caterpillars like everywhere. I'm talking about it was like swarms of them. Like they built this brand new building. They were coming up through the drain systems. I mean, it looked like something biblical. Oh yeah.
That's
And so
cicadas?
they actually had a caterpillar conservation area that was separated. They said they made a special bridge so that you couldn't go in certain areas, and yeah, they built the whole thing for it. So I guess they were very protected up there for some reason. I don't know what the relationship is.
I don't know what those are. I'm very curious.
Ah.
I know on Long Island the ones with the furry
monarchs?
bastards, you stay away from.
Yeah,
Yeah, these were
they
not
had
harmful,
spongy
but
moth
they-
up there for a while, so it's.
But if you left your car I'm not going to mention the company name because that doesn't need to be mentioned, but if you go up to, we would have cars out there, and if you left your car for more than 20, 30 minutes in this
Caterpillars
particular
are
time of
everywhere.
the year in the summer, you'd walk out and your tires, you could barely see the rubber. It was just caterpillars all over. I mean, people had to look down every 10 minutes because you're near a drain in the floor, and every caterpillar's crawling up your legs. It was very
Were those
creepy.
caterpillars or maggots? Were you
Well, they
in
were
Massachusetts?
caterpillars. I was in
it's,
Massachusetts.
it's,
Yeah, it's very creepy. But anyway, that was a side note on it. But it was
Well,
interesting when you say conservation.
Go ahead and cross that city off the visit list.
Yeah, he's not one to move to Boston.
You're gonna have
now.
to
He's
stay on the West Coast now.
But it was only during that time of the year. But anyway,
Yeah.
sorry, I didn't mean to veer you off. There,
No.
but it was interesting when you said that.
Yeah, wow, it sounds very cinematic, actually. But.
Yeah, it was close to something biblical. Like you could make a
Yeah.
religious movie out of that.
Biblical John Carpenter, one of those two.
Raining frogs.
Yeah, I think Stephen King's got something on the back burner.
Just send him up there. It's the inspiration for his next book.
Yeah, if he watches this one, that was my idea, Stephen.
TM, copyright. This is all ours.
Next thing you know, there's a movie in Westboro, Massachusetts.
On caterpillars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A good friend of mine lives about 10 minutes away from
And
there,
then
he's never
EP
mentioned
movie
this.
talks and chill.
So what's next for the film? Like after you premiere it here, are you looking for like distribution? Are you looking to send it out to more festivals? Like, are you going to self-distribute? What's the plan?
Yeah, so it's got, there's I don't know, 15, 20 more festivals we're waiting to hear back from. So I'm guessing it'll play in a few more. I'm hopeful for that anyway. We want to get it on PBS. It's made for public television.
Yeah.
So PBS in our region. And then beyond that, we'd like to use it as a launching point to make a longer film, to turn this something into a feature that expands out on this very micro subculture of bird banding, where you can see off into bigger issues. Conservation writ broadly, what it means, what immigration means in this contemporary moment, how we think about our connections to nature, and how we imagine future spaces that we want to inhabit. As opposed to the kind of, I'm into dystopian science fiction. I watch this stuff and I'm like, man, titillated about it in some ways, and I don't know what to do at the end of it. Like I watched Children of Men in a class the other day, and by the end of that film, I was like, gosh, great long takes by Emmanuel Lubezki. Oh my goodness, and boy, do I not know what to do now. It's like, so how do you imagine a future that's not Pollyanna, but that's also not as dystopian as a Hollywood film takes a film to be? And, a documentary where you start to talk to people who are thinking about future-oriented scenarios, maybe using animation to, illustrate some of these kinds of concepts, to practice used in urban planning to show what a downtown can look like with this set of policies as opposed to that set of policies. I'm really interested in that, like that kind of translation if it turns into a longer film.
And kind of along those lines, I think I'm a college professor. I absolutely, one of the things that I think as a scientist that we've really failed at is actually communicating with the general public some
That's
of the
hard.
real science. It's always easy to hit on all the snakes and hit on the other scary stuff and the gooey stuff and all that, but to actually get real science and have real science interesting. And that's why I think
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
This has been great for me because I want to bring real science to people and to kids and to communities, and not just some sort of artificially created for sound bites or for for something. And so I think trying to bring some of the latest scientific methods and findings on bird migration, on conservation, on how we can use some of the latest technologies for conservation, how we can use them for greater awareness on moths and snakes and things, but to do it from a non-fluffy perspective, but at the same time make it really interesting and compelling. And so I think that's where we're hoping to go.
You want to talk about Modus?
Well,
I think this stuff's really interesting.
It doesn't matter how much money we spend in the U.S. on bird conservation if we don't take into account the wintering and stopover sites in Central and South America for our same birds. So we could spend an unlimited amount of dollars up here, and they'd still get crushed or the forests would be fragmented in Ecuador or in Colombia. So it is really important to tie in the importance of North America not as the place, but as part of the life history of the bird. So one of the problems with that is from bird banding, we can mark, it's putting a social security number on a bird. You have to recapture the bird to read the social security number. That's hard, and it's not done as very frequently in the general numbers of birds that are banded. So there is now technology available, Modus being these nano tags that you can put these super lightweight little tags that basically, when you go into the store and you buy orange juice and you run it across a scanner and it says, orange juice 369, and well, these nano tags actually send out a signal every 10, 12 seconds that says, I'm 369, I'm 369, I'm 369. And so there's towers, antenna towers, that are set up like a picket fence that as the bird flies over, it registers bing, bing, just like you're at the grocery store, who's going over. And in this fashion, you don't have to recapture the birds, but at the same time, you can log them going north or going south. And you get rough speeds and certainly directions. But with this, we can actually find that, wow, these birds, we used to think they hit this Gulf Coast, traveled as a wave up through the Midwest, and then wound up in Canada and the Arctic Circle. Well, now we're finding actually it's a lot more complicated than that. And a lot of these birds might actually re-aggregate in specific areas because there's more food, because there's habitat remaining there. And so that if you're spending your conservation dollars here, you can focus it better.
Right.
But you can do the same thing in Central America. You can do the same thing in Mexico. You can do the same thing in Ecuador. And so I think one of the next stages we're going to be looking at is using some of the Modus tagged birds. There's a species called Swainson's thrush, which breeds in Canada, winters as far south as basically northern Brazil. So we're working with a banding station in Ecuador where we'll put Modus tags on those birds, Modus tags on our Swainson's thrush, and then we can see how we're connecting the two hemispheres, and we can tie together both the scientists and the conservation people between the two. So we're trying to figure out how to do this in film fashion, so that we can, kind of introduce not. The U.S. is a very important but not exclusive part to this equation, and tie in everybody between continents, and use birds as a thread. So that's kind of where we're thinking of going with this.
That's a big goal right there. I mean, I hope you guys achieve that. That'd be great. Like I said, it's just the more and more education you can have on these things, the more awareness. That's great. I think it's fantastic.
So for these tags, is there what's the life cycle on them? Because I know the
That's a
tags
good
they
question.
use for
That's a good question.
the sharks, because they'll do the clamps for them and they'll track the big sharks in their migration. They typically fall off after a couple of days, and that's what it's designed to.
Yeah, it depends on. You can put them on very small birds, and then you have to use very small tags, which have very small batteries. So they actually can put these tags on dragonflies. And dragonflies migrate. or some species of dragonflies migrate. So you can
outside my apartment, does it?
I'm sensing a theme over there.
Feathershine is lousy with bugs.
Do you have any birds he can borrow?
I've got a school of ducks behind those things. Don't
We've
eat
got a
them.
guaranteed location you can find.
But so depending on the size of the bird is going to then dictate the amount of battery life that can be carried, because you have to have a very small, it can't be but a small portion of the percentage of the bird's body weight that you can actually have the tag. So something like a Swainson's thrush, you probably might get
Maybe like a year?
12, 14 months, maybe
Yeah.
16, so you can get them coming south, going back north, and maybe not south again. It depends, but so you're getting maybe a year and a half out of it, and then it falls off.
Gotcha.
Assuming the bird lives that long. Many of them are not.
They're-
They
and
don't last that long.
And you can see all this data publicly. Like any
Okay.
bird species, if you go to the MODIS website, you can see like everything that people have tagged and like where they went. Sometimes you see like, what the hell is that bird doing? You know, like I thought it was just going to go to this side of North America, and instead it went over to that side of North America, and then it came
Now
back.
it's just
and-
going to California.
Yeah, it's like I'm done with the rest of you birds.
Thanks for the birds. And I'm not doing it anymore.
I'm taking the easy way out of this.
Yeah. It is wild, you know. Like Dave told me that you know, they for a long time ornithologists thought birds migrated 200 miles a day, and then they'd rest for a while and eat up and go to the next stage. And they don't. They go thousands of miles in a week, you know. And you don't know that every bird goes the same way. Like they go all over the place.
Yeah.
It's hard to decode patterns in some of this stuff, but it's proving a lot of things wrong, I think you'd say. So, and these are new. These tags were not around like 10 years ago. These little tiny ones that you could put on a bird that weighs 2 Cheez-Its. It can be 3% of the bird's body weight. That's how big the tag can be.
Wow.
So that is really, really small. And they just didn't have it 10 years ago, I don't think, for birds that
Every
tiny.
year the technology gets better
Yeah.
and lighter, and the battery life on big birds, ospreys. You have a lot of ospreys down here. They actually tagged ospreys in Columbus, Ohio, and one of the ospreys wintered in Amazonia, and the other wintered in Cuba. And then they got back together and back on the nest in Columbus, and but they can use actually solar battery, solar
okay,
things,
so,
they
yeah.
can keep them charged for a couple of years in there. So a bigger bird, you have a better chance, which you might have with a whale or a seal or something like that.
Hey Manolo, how is the family in Cuba?
Nothing but mojitos, my dude.
This has been great, guys. We appreciate
Yeah,
you guys.
thank you.
joining
Before we
us.
wrap up,
Yeah,
I
no,
do
no,
have one more question. So at the top
And
of
he's
the
gonna tell us a bird joke. I
I do want to hear your bird story.
at the top of the episode, you said you have to catch them, and running around with a big net is not ideal. So how do you actually catch these birds? I'm not.
Yeah, that is a good
That's
question.
actually a good question.
It's not like a T-shirt cannon with a net inside.
First one of the year. Yes, you had a good
And we're done.
Yeah,
We're checking out.
yeah,
Send me the raw file on this.
yeah. We'll send you a link to the film you can see. But go ahead,
That's
go ahead,
right.
Dave.
We use mist nets, and mist nets are basically 40-foot long, 10-foot tall hair nets.
Okay.
So they're nearly invisible to the bird. You're putting them up against bushes and complex backgrounds, so they can't really see it. It may be like a giant spider web. And so they're super soft, lightweight nylon, and so you're basically positioning nets between areas birds would be expected to fly between. And they're passive collectors. And we put out maybe 40 nets in the morning, and we have a whole crew of dedicated volunteers that are constantly circulating, taking birds out of nets, bringing them back to the banding station. They get a Social Security number and a doctor's office checkup, and off they go.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah, man. Good question, Patrick. He earned his lunch today.
Joke's on you. I already had it.
But no, seriously, guys, thank you so much. This is fun and very educational. I will say, the different subject matters that we get. That's what
imagine.
Like I said, this is our 4th year doing this, and we get to do so many interviews. So we're so privileged to be able to be a part of this with Sunscreen. And I mean, we can almost get like an honorary doctorate between the different subject matters.
Yeah.
If we combine
Yeah.
all the half hour, like all the interviews, I think we learned a little bit about everything. That's also really cool for us
Yeah,
as
well,
well. So.
And I'm a college professor, so I will. I can administer the exam now.
All right.
And we'll have it graded in a few minutes. We'll have it up on the computer. We'll let all the viewers see the score.
Yes.
You know, I got a Word document. I can make a certificate of completion here. No, but that's
For all you know, I passed.
Yeah.
With our knowledge combined, we could be a really boring Captain Planet.
Actually, I saw him looking over your shoulder. So
Yeah. See that? Now, what a good time, though. Thank you, guys. For all of you out there at Sunscreen, this is a continuation of day 3. Again, like I said, we got a lot more weekends still to go. I mean, we're halfway through the second day, or the third day, but it's getting sad, a little melancholy that it's almost over, but we still got a lot more for you. So we'll keep up with you, up to date on all the new interviews we have, what's going on with the film festival, some of the after parties. But until then, for Movie Talks and Chill, we are your hosts. I'm Tony Serrato.
I'm Gavin Butts.
I'm Patrick Wall.
And our special guests.
Andy Rice,
And I'm David Russell.
All right, guys, take care.
thank you.